What's going on, everyone? Conservative Video Dipper here. If you got a dip, peck a lip. I get asked a lot of questions, and this one comes up the most. And if I do not answer your questions, I do apologize. 1,000 apologies. But this one comes up the most, and I do have to answer this one because this one actually, I don't think I've ever answered this one, and I'm going to now. And I think it actually makes sense now, since I've done the Elon Musk story, and I'm wanting to share it with you guys and gals. So here we go. Conservative, why do sometimes you use words that are considered big boy words and not just simple words? Okay. There's multitude of different reasons. One is because when it comes to doing things, especially like, for example, how I speak, I, as a journalist, have been taught that using words that are not your average everyday word, for instance, supposedly, this is a plastic bottle. Well, now, instead of me saying supposedly, I could say, well, this is allegedly a plastic bottle, or this is an alleged plastic bottle, even though we know this is a plastic bottle, right? Because we don't know for sure. But even though we know for sure that this is a plastic bottle, sometimes you have to do this. For one, because when going back to the Elon Musk story, we didn't know, and people will call me naive because I didn't allegedly know that Elon Musk was on the list, and neither did they. So they're being a little presumptuous on their judgment towards me, I think. Very, very presumptuous, because they didn't know either. But that's here nor there. That Elon Musk was allegedly on the list. So, because Elon is somebody that is a public figure, and because when it comes down to somebody like Elon who can possibly sue if we make false allegations or false statements towards them, which we have to be very careful not to do, and we don't want to make false statements or false assumptions towards them. We have to use words like allegedly or alleged, because those are things that can be used to prevent possible legality issues. Well, you could have said he was on the list. No, because then that is assuming that he's on the list without knowing for sure, without evidence, without fact checking, without having 100% knowledge and credibility for sure that he was on the alleged list. which could have, again, caused legality issues for me, which I do not want. And it could have caused a lot of problems, which I do not want. And that's why I did what I did. And that's why I said what I said. And that's why a lot of journalists say those things. Because when you hear them say things like that, they do it because it's possibly them trying to keep themselves out of legality issues or out of trouble. But there's a multitude of other reasons as well. Not just that. Well, what's the other reason? The other reason is, for instance, let's not use Elon. Let's use other stories. Hypothetical stories. So, for example, let's say that we're doing another story. That is a great story. It's awesome story. And it's a very happy story. And you're trying to tell the story in a different way, in a different light of tone. It brings out the story exactly that way. You're using it to tell the story in a different way, in a different type of sort of way that your audience will still understand. They will comprehend, that they will not only be captivated by, but it may start a conversation. That's also kind of another idea too, is why you use those words too. Is sometimes those words can be a conversation starter. Did he just? Yep, he did. Damn talent. Because that's what journalists are taught to do. And yes, I'm a Tier 2 freelance journalist. We are taught to use big words, big definitions. We describe things in a bigger way. Cheers, folks. We are taught to use words that may make people think about things in a different way, that are described not in an everyday average way of speaking or thinking, by how we describe stories. And it gives people a different point of view. But not just that, but it also, again, going back to what I just said, it kind of can set the tone, it can start a conversation, it can do a lot of things. So using big boy words and using different words, like instead of supposedly, we use allegedly or alleged. Instead of saying enough, that would be sufficient. That's sufficient. It is a way that gets people to think a little bit more. And that's what we do. We want people to think a lot more in a different way that they probably never have thought of. Well, do you have to do it every time that you're talking about a public figure in their way or about them? Well, if you really think about it, it actually is good to do it, because here's why. Again, when you do it, or when I do it, and you can start learning to do it too. It's easy. But when I do it, it's because the way that, again, that I've been taught as a freelance journalist, tier 2 freelance journalist, that is how I've been taught to basically give the story or tell the story, right? So yeah, pretty much that is how I'm going to do it every time. Now, some people could say I might be a little naive with how I may allegedly do some stories, which that's okay, that's fine, that's totally, completely fine. I don't mind it. That would, again, be a very crude, presumptuous assumption on their part, and a very heinous notion that they have about me because they don't know me. But when it comes down to it, I'm just a freelance journalist doing my job. And that's just telling the story as it is. And that's what I do. Because I'm going to give you the story, whether you like it or not. I'm going to tell how it is. But big boy words sometimes can be good. They can describe how you feel. Happy, sad, angry, mad, content, sorrow, pity, lust. They can describe any feeling in any way, shape, or form. Try using some words. Look up words. Write them down. Write down the original meaning of what you're looking for, and then find a big boy word meaning that would describe that same word, but in a different meaning that's a bigger word for it, and use it. Some people would say, well, it makes you sound a little bit more educated. It kind of does, actually. I've noticed it. People do compliment you sometimes for it. They're like, dang, I've never heard it put quite like that before. Yeah. Because it gives you kind of a higher education type mentality. It makes you adapt in the world. Because, see, we're so used to using simplistic words to describe things that some people are just like stuck with it. When journalists actually are more stuck with using bigger words. Well, how do you get away from it? And there's another question that this will be the last question. Is it hard to stop using those big words? It kind of can be for a multitude of reasons. One, because you want to shut your brain off with it when you're trying to think about things, especially like when you're, for me, like when I'm talking to my daughter and I'm trying to describe something. My daughter's 14, by the way, and I'm trying to describe to her something that I want done, or trying to tell her something, and my brain just automatically goes to big boy word mode. It's hard because it automatically will do it. So it's instinctual. So it becomes very instinctual to use big words. So yes, it can be very difficult sometimes to shut it off, but you just got to teach yourself or remind yourself, okay, maybe this is not the right time to use those big words. There are certain times where you can and should use those big words, but those times are when it's appropriate, or when you're talking to somebody that will understand you and understand what they mean and understand the context of what you're saying when you're using those words. Because some people might not pick up on it. Some people may not have ever heard that word. And they'll be like, huh? Excuse me? I beg your pardon? Say what now? Huh? Hold on, let me Google. Oh. Okay, now I get it. Go on. Duh. So you kind of have to be like, okay, sorry, hold on. Let me dummy it down for you here for a sec. And sometimes you have to remember, some people aren't going to get it, so you got to use the simpler tone or the simpler words. So it is kind of hard, but it can be easy. And that's the thing, is when you learn to use it, use it. Use it when you know it's the right time. And I know, especially like when I'm doing journalism, I know that's the right time to use big boy words. When I can just throw out there allegedly or supposedly I'm gonna start talking about public figures and I'm gonna say things that I want my point across, and I'm gonna really make this story really good, and I want that story to sound not just good but really have that depth and that tone. I'm gonna use those words because I know that's the right time to throw those words in there. But when I'm like talking to my family, no, I don't do it with my family. So there you go. There's the question that y'all been asking me. Hope it helps. Love you guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Love you guys. See you guys next time.